Now, since yesterday, I was coming to talk about this factor here that is in existence. Just 2 days ago, America would have infiltrated Venezuela. And while many of us would have heard and would have seen presidents of different nations would have came forward and assured the people that they are over, or they are ruling over, matter of fact, would have came out and would have addressed the nation. Many of us are asking one question: where is Kamla Persad-Bissessar in all of this? At this time, when regional tension are escalating and global powers are once again shaping the future of our hemisphere, leadership cannot afford to be silent. So anybody underneath any art form that is telling you otherwise, Trinidad and Tobago, they are trying to spin the narrative. That don't know game. Let me be real here. Anybody that is telling you, Trinidad and Tobago, that it is okay for the leadership of this country to remain silent, they are trying to spin the narrative in the favor of the party that is ruling. Or they are backing a matter of fact. That is what I wanted to say. Trinidad and Tobago sit at the crossroads of energy security and regional stability. The Caribbean diplomacy. And yesterday, when I would have heard Sean Sobers made the comment, David Lee and Firoz Khan would have come out with a press conference shamelessly with the Prime Minister, with the Minister of National Security, and we all know the contribution we could expect from Roger Alexander, because from what we are seeing within the public domain, it is easy to say without fear of contradiction that Roger Alexander is a dunce. It's easy to say that. Look at his many responses when he was asked serious questions. We know, we could, anybody, a baby, a child, somebody that go in secondary school could come up with the analysis from after hearing Roger Alexander, could say he's a dunce. That is a given. But where is the Prime Minister? Where is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago? Any military action involving Venezuela, our close neighbors, has direct implication on our economy, border security, energy sector, and the safety of our people. In moments like these, citizens look to their leader, to their elected leader, not for panic, but for clarity, resilience, and direction. So where is Kamla Persad-Bissessar? And anybody, I telling you, Trinidad and Tobago, anybody that is trying to sell the story indifferently do not care about this country. What, I mean, you are afraid, Kamla Persad? Are you sick? Did you go for dialysis? Where is Kamla Persad-Bissessar in all of this? I want going on right there. It ain't going on in Iraq. It's going on about 7 miles away. Where Kamla Persad-Bissessar? Where the Minister of National Security? Where is the top cop? All of them just take a dose of silence just so? But Trinidad and Tobago, you are going to hear this on this platform here today. The top cop in Trinidad and Tobago is nothing more than a UNC stooge. And let me tell you why. Did you remember Trinidad and Tobago? The marijuana altercation in the Prime Minister's house? Alistair Guerrero was in charge of the unit, being a member of the traffic branch. If Kamla get away from that whole charge, bet your bottom dollar that with this whole story, our present Commissioner of Police, Alistair Guerrero, know fully well what would have taken place there. So, and all of a sudden you see top composition. Boy, oh yeah, different here. A nation, a national address is not about politics or party loyalty. It's about calming fears, conquering misinformation, and affirming that the state is alert, prepared, and acting in the best interest of the population. Silence creates uncertainty, breeds fear, and strong leadership close the gap with truth and transparency. Where is Kamla Prasad? He says, is that a leader? Trinidad and Tobago, that why now tell you there is a given. What I now say to you there is a given. Yeah, technician, I know that does always try to pull down the live on TikTok. We keeping our close eyes on that. So you can find us there on TikTok. So Trinidad and Tobago, let's move on to a very important segment that I believe many of you would have took for granted. So to those that are following us on YouTube, thanks for joining us on that short notice. To those that are streaming with us on our website, Workers' Rights 868, you could Google that. We are streaming live on our website. We are streaming on Twitch. The Slimy Show. We are also streaming on that platform. So Trinidad and Tobago, to start the morning, let me just give a little context to what is going to be played here today. Somebody say that I have a little sticking, but oftentimes they just try, but they won't succeed. Today we are going to play. Yes. I know they will try. I know. Now, Trinidad and Tobago. We are going to bring back our age-old content that many of you know. And with that, we are going to explain this and bring it right up to Sean Sobers here this morning. Because you cannot continue to play games with people. When most of you are supporting a political party, is with all your life, or your limb, and everything. Yes, Twitch and X. Yes, thanks, Slimy. Twitch and X. We are on Twitch and we are on X. So this person here is Satmaraj. And he, in his wisdom, would have given an instructions to the people that would have followed the UNC party. And before we move on to bringing it right up to this thing where Kamla Prasad Bisesa is right now is a disappearing act. Nobody of importance is talking, so they could come now and say, Sean Sobers don't understand. David Lee don't understand because he's the Minister of Housing. And Firoz Khan don't understand nothing. So that is why they send out these two decoys to see how the population is going to deal and treat with them. But listen to this message from Satmaraj, Trinidad and Tobago.
I want to tell you that we're going to free up the Hindu vote. Another thing I want to tell you, Kamla, we sent you an invitation for our Indian Arrival Day program Wednesday at Lakshmi College. You are due to talk, but I want to tell you now, I have revoked that invitation. You are not welcome on our compound.
That's an articles.
Kamla, Prasad, Visesa,
It's
you
not
are
massive
not
location.
welcome on our compound. You take for granted. You could behave anyhow. Do what you want, eat what you want, drink what you want. Play the ass all over the place. And the Hindu will still vote for you. Kamla, those days are over. We are asking the Hindus to free their vote. Vote for whichever party has the best program. Vote for whichever candidate is the best candidate. Not because they are Indian and Hindu or woman. The Hindu vote is going to be freed up. No more voting because you belong to the same race or the same class. Kamla, you are going to pay a hell of a price. A hell of a price. You're going to pay a hell of a price. Right?
Now, you hear the statement of Satmaraj. And in his wisdom, why you think he would have made such a statement? Why you think Satmaraj, in his wisdom, would have made such a statement? Now, many of you may be watching Satmaraj and saying he bitter. Now, in the statement, he would have leave a key. And that key wasn't to the warning of the Hindu community alone, you know, but to the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And here is where we're going to tie in this whole thing here this morning. You know. This show here is more important than you think. Satmaraj would have said to Kamla Prasad Bisesa, you feel that you could do what you want. You feel that you could say what you want. And people will just vote for you just so. Although the warning from Satmaraj was for the Hindu community, at this point in time, it is applicable to the rest of Trinidad and Tobago. You have to understand this thing. This man in just talking, you know, when you hear religious leaders.
I want to tell you that we're going to free up the Hindu vote. Another thing I want to tell you, Kamla, we sent you an invitation for our Indian Arrival Day program Wednesday at
Kamla, we send you an invitation. Well, you listening on for Indian Arrival Day, and listen what he said.
Lakshmi College. You are due to talk, but I want to tell you now, I have revoked that invitation.
I revoke that invitation, and hear why. Hear why.
You are not welcome on our compound.
That's an articles.
Kamla, Prasad, Visesa, you are not welcome on our compound. You take for granted. You could behave anyhow. Do what you want, eat what you want, drink what you want. Play the ass all over the place. And the Hindu will still vote for you. Kamla, those days are over.
Kamla Prasad Bisesa, even then, they were having that same issue with Kamla. She feels she could do what she wants. She feels she can say what she wants. And the Hindu community continue putting back this woman in power. And just recently, in the election that would have taken place in 2025, the black people, we would have joined. But it was too late for we to start to warn the people of what is taking place. It was too late. Election was already on the brink. So when we start to talk, they will never respond because they can't respond. Because everybody know that David Naked is a dunce. A total dunce. Everybody know that Aden Roberts is a drunk. Everybody know that they cannot answer Trinidad and Tobago. They can't answer these questions. They cannot answer it. But to add context to what we are saying here, as a leader of a nation, you can't just do what you want. You was elected to serve the people. So in a state of crisis that is taking place here within Trinidad and Tobago, where we are seeing place blocked off all over, panic, the police panicking, and they are telling you, the citizens, here what's going on, or you remain safe, or you don't worry what taking place. That small thing. Sat Mirage won all year, you know. Sat Mirage won all year. But what I am going to play here is even more terrible than that, because you're seeing people panicking, you're seeing road block off all over the place, and when intellectual people is asking the question, you're seeing David Lee grabbing the mic. From Sean Sobers. When people asking question, watch David Lee, watch him again, watch.
So there's nothing to be worried about. Let me just.
And that was done on 2 occasions, whilst the press conference was taking place. Look at it.
So there's nothing to be worried about. Okay. All right. Let me just.
That was the second interval there where David Lee would have grabbed the mic. Now, let me show you the next clip. David Lee again.
And protocols as they're being rolled out.
I want to remind you.
Let me just wrap up.
Minister, I have
Minister
one question
Sobers.
before you do that, because it's important
as Minister
for the
Sobers
national
would have
interest.
said, Minister Sobers and protocols as they're being rolled out.
I want to remind you.
Let me just wrap up.
Minister, I have one
Minister
question
Sobers.
before you do that, because it's important
as
for
Minister
the national
Sobers would have
interest.
said, Minister Sobers and protocols as they're being rolled out.
I want to remind you.
Let me just wrap up.
Minister, I have one
Minister
question
Sobers.
before you do that, because it's important
as
for
Minister
the national
Sobers would have
interest.
said, Minister Sobers.
So David Lee takes the microphone away from Sean Sobers. And we, Trinidad and Tobago, have to ask ourselves, who really is the minister in charge of really explaining this? You see, there was a lot of things to be asked of the minister. And David Lee would have tried to alter this whole thing, this whole process from taking place. And we here is asking the question. Should we, Trinidad and Tobago, be afraid of what is taking place in this country? Or shall we go about this whole process willy-nilly? Because it's answers the people want in this country. And when you come to give a press conference, Sean Sobers and the whole UNC team, it's a press conference you come to give. And not one where David Lee coming and hiding the mic and grabbing the mic from you. That is not something that people would have prescribed to. But before we go on to explain, because this thing here would have explained everything in it. But before we go on to add context and accuse us, let me play the video. Yes, let me play this clip here. I want you to understand it, because we are going to go right in and dissect this thing to pieces.
Earlier, one of my colleagues would have asked you about what we saw happening in the capital as it pertains to the lockdown of certain streets that led to the police administration building. Now, while the government says via yourself and the Prime Minister that the attack that happened in Venezuela had nothing to do with us, the police commissioner would have stated in a release that when your neighbor's house is on fire, we should wet our own. My question to you evidently becomes, why did we not have more clearer communication from the government, particularly the Prime Minister? Because the Defense Minister would have said that people weren't worried or they had nothing to be worried about. But the activities that we saw in our capital told a very different story.
I appreciate the question. And I guess essentially, because it's coming, it's a bit subjective. So essentially, in terms of our canvassing as well too, and looking into what was unfolding, I could say that I am aware that many citizens did not feel any type of calamity on the streets within the capital or within Trinidad and Tobago. I think a lot of that would have been connected to the manner in which we dealt with the situation. Respectfully, I don't believe that it's correct to say that the Prime Minister did not give information as it came to us through the National Security Council. As information came, based upon the sensitivity of the information, based upon certain protocols established, set protocols that were being reviewed at the National Security Council level, information was disseminated. This is an ever-evolving situation, and being sensitive in terms of what we see, what we do, how we approach the situation is extremely important. Certain measures, as I mentioned before, within the hours of the morning, because they were established protocols that we were consistently reviewing, were immediately effectuated. Obviously, we have to be careful with respect to how the country is looked at, how we are protected, how safe we are here locally. And I think that is what you would have been seeing playing out in the streets, not only in the capital, but throughout the rest of the country. But I definitely do not believe that anybody felt unsafe or there was any calamity at all. As a matter of fact, I think the contrary of that particular position holds true. You are here, you are safe. Yesterday, I suspect you went about your business as per normal. And that's what we want the country to continue to do. There's nothing to be worried about. The administration is in control. The Prime Minister is on top of things. And we are consistently reviewing certain established procedures and protocols as they're rolled out.
Now, Trinidad and Tobago, you would have heard that statement from that gentleman. And you tell me if that making any sense what Sean Sobers would have now said. Because the police commissioner would have said that when your neighbor house on fire, wet yours. And he would have taken certain initiative. He called off certain parts of Port of Spain. He stopped certain things from entering the city. And now you are hearing Sean Sobers is stating that the people of Trinidad and Tobago wasn't frightened at all. Now, this is a case here where this guy, Sean Sobers, is being utterly naive. Because if the police commissioner is taking certain steps to operate within a particular way, calling off certain bats, and you are seeing the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago is not taking that initiative, what we must ask ourselves is this. If the citizenry is not taking that initiative, then there is something that they are not seeing. So before you use that as something to say, well, you know, they must have not understand the type of dangerous situation that we are in, because the police would have taken initiative to call off certain areas and to stop certain activities from taking place within certain areas. They isolate parts of Port of Spain. And then at the same time, you're trying to say the Prime Minister, trying to make an excuse to the Prime Minister not being there to address the nation in this state of crisis. That is what it is. So, to kind of cover up what you're trying to say, Sean Sobers, you start to talk that the people. But who have the responsibility of informing the people? Who have that responsibility? The United States of America would have said that this is unsafe at this point in time. Up till today, the closure of the airspace in Trinidad, Piaco airspace, and you are telling we down here, Sean Sobers, you're telling we down here that we are not supposed to feel fearful? The whole world talking about this. And it's easy to dispel you because we have seen Kamla Prasad Bisesa would have done this when Dave Tanku would have said, let me give Oya, we will give Oya back the money Oya pay for property tax. She said, ask Tanku. And if it reached that point that she have to throw somebody underneath the bus, then Sean Sobers use the first on the list. Because everybody is taking precaution. All countries taking precaution about what taking place here, because the carnage that would have taken place in Venezuela is real. You know what people dead down there? I see pictures with people head blown off. And what I show you in the media and on Facebook and on certain apps, that is just just a iota. Right now, Venezuela is still counting their dead. And you hear what Sean Soba say? Boy, I just want to know and understand. Some of the times, what going on with the UNC party if they're playing people for clown. But not only that, let me talk about this question here that would have been asked of Sean Sobas and the UNC party concerning why they keep this press conference in a UNC building. And I'll give you the answer after, you know. As the old people that say, is the change from the dollar is what has bring the noise. So let me play this clip here. Where the question was asked, and I will give you a response in a short while.
I'm asking the location, and I love sugar gunners. I'm talking about it. It's under
I'm glad to
UNC
hear you love
banner. There's a
sugar
UNC logo
I
on
love
the
sugar
screen,
gunners
not
too.
Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is here as the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HGC. We are representatives of the government. We're providing the information which the public, I suspect, they required to hear. Again, the substance is important, not the location.
It's not asking the location, and I love sugar gunners. I'm talking about it. It's under
I'm glad
UNC
to hear you love
banner. There's a
sugar gunners.
UNC logo
I
on
love
the
sugar
screen,
gunners
not
too.
Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HGC. We are representatives of the government. We're providing the information which the public, I suspect that they would require to hear. Again, the substance is important, not the location.
It's not asking the location, and I love sugar gunners. I'm talking about it. It's under
I'm glad
UNC
to hear you love
banner.
sugar
There's a
gunners.
UNC logo
I
on
love
the
sugar
screen,
gunners
not
too.
Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is here as the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HGC. We are representatives of the government. We're providing the information which the public, I suspect that they would require to hear. Again, the substance is important, not the location.
It's not asking the location, and I love sugar gunners. I'm talking about it. It's under
I'm glad to
UNC
hear you love
banner.
sugar
There's a
gunners.
UNC logo
I
on
love
the
sugar
screen,
gunners.
not Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is here as the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HGC. We are representatives of the government. We're providing the information which the public, I suspect that they would require to hear.
So Trinidad and Tobago. A question was asked. A question would have been asked. And here it is. And here it is. We were given an answer. And the answer was, is the substance that is important, not the location. And whilst many of us would have agreed to that statement, there is something else that was missing. Other than the factor of substance. What was missing there, Trinidad and Tobago, is control. And there are certain people that will not make themselves present in that UNC building. And secondly, Trinidad and Tobago, the control factor in which I am speaking about is this. We would have listened to different feed of this same broadcast, this briefing that would have take place within the UNC building office. And in comparison to all the footage that we would have went through, we would have seen this single most important factor that many of you must pay attention to. When we listen to the audio quality between the two sets of feed, there were different audio quality altogether. Some of you may say, here what's going on, that what you talking about, that different, what kind of conspiracy thing that this man talking about? But Trinidad and Tobago, the UNC base is encouraged to listen to broadcasting only from the UNC platforms. And to break down the psychology and the methodology behind what I'm trying to present here, the image that must be shaped in your mind, the dissenting voices, the people that was asking the question behind the camera, their voice was not magnified. So if you are on a UNC platform and you are listening to the messagery and the question that was being asked, you will realize that you hear little to no volume at all. Little to no volume. And if you want to hear any questions that the people asking on the next side, you go hear Anil Roberts, you go hear that dunce David Naked, and you go hear Philip Elliott Alexander trying to spin the narrative. Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the world, understand why the UNC keep that press conference inside the UNC building and not a government, not underneath the government buildings and them where they are custom keeping briefings and press briefings, because they could control the narrative, Trinidad and Tobago. But thank God for certain journalists that would have made their voices present. So when we hear and we take the footage from the UNC platform, we had was to go behind the scene and raise the voices of the question that is being asked. And imagine a UNC, a diehard UNC, only listening to UNC on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, and all them platforms, understand the type of misinformation that they will be receiving every day and night. Because there are people that is being paid paid to post to keep you entertained UNC base, to keep you entertained and to keep you on the platform, and to always present the information in a biased way. Imagine some of you will not even see this message and go reach some of them. That is why it is important for you, the average man on the streets, to tell these people and them. And for TV6, for CNC3, and for other platforms to start a broadcast. Anytime they're doing that type of folly, is to bring cameras and run it direct, do a direct feed from your network to the public. Because they will continue this. This is the first step. I'm pointing out to you at the end of the day. I ain't telling you, don't do what you have to do it. But that is the height of deception. That is the height of deception.
It's not master the location, and I love Shogunas. I'm talking about it's under
I'm glad to hear you love
banner. There's a
Shogunas.
UNC logo
I
on
love
the screen,
Shogunas
not
too.
Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is here as the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HCC. We are representatives of the government. We are providing the information which the public, I suspect that they would require to hear. Again, the substance is important, not the location.
It's not master the location, and I love Shogunas. I'm talking about it's under
I'm glad
UNC
to hear you love
banner. There's a
Shogunas.
UNC logo
I
on
love
the
Shogunas
screen, not
too.
Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. It's UNC.
This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I am here as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Minister Lee is here as the Minister of Housing. Feroz is here as the Chairman of the HCC. We are representatives of the government. We are providing the information which the public, I suspect that they would require to hear. Again, the substance is important, not the location.
The substance is important, not the information. Not the location, a matter of fact. And this is something that, and the reason why I would have discovered that there was a time I, Renaissance Jeffrey, would have went a political meeting. And in that political meeting, because we take our footage too when we go to certain places, and in that political meeting, when we would have cut short and we would have went through and say, yeah, what's going on? Let me go through our opponent video material to see what we missed out, because there was some goodies that we would have entered in the midst of explaining. And when we would have reached there, the meeting was done halfway. So when we started analyze the footage, we realized that wait now, the silence, some of the footage that would have taken place there. And it's the same thing in this instance. What is taking place here? So Trinidad and Tobago, the meeting, there was certain parts that you are not hearing, Trinidad.